Welcome to the BU 365-day challenge. Coffee's hot. To do one thing every day that improves us in some way. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. No Nonsense November. We're talking about one of the biggest life lessons I personally have learned, and I'm not alone because many other people before me have learned these lessons, many of them in much quicker, easier, less painful ways than I have. But I like to share in November. I think this is the third time I've done No Nonsense November, where every day I've shared a life lesson learned. Or I think one year I did a tool, one of my favorite tools for becoming a better version of myself, personal development, personal improvement, etc. Because there are literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of different tools that we can use, just like there's different tools that we can have in a physical toolbox to repair and fix and change things. We can do the same thing with our life with different tools. So I think one year I did a tool a day for November instead of No Nonsense November. But basically, I like to share a lesson that I've learned because if I can help just one person avoid some of the mistakes I've made, I think it's worth it. So today we're talking about, for No Nonsense November, day 19, people show us exactly who they are. And I like to add the qualifier right now because I think as humans, we're changing and growing all the time. But sometimes people will absolutely positively tell us to our face where they're at in their life, what they're thinking. It applies a lot to relationships or being ready to do something better, being ready to be involved in a business or be a business partner is where I've had the most experience with it, but personal relationships as well. People will tell us right now, hey, I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm not wanting to date right now. I'm just coming out of a bad relationship, whatever it is. And they will tell us, or I'm not looking to be monogamous, and we will just put blinders on, especially in new relationships, and expect something different of them than what they're telling us. This is probably one of the hardest lessons I learned. My ex-husband showed me when we were dating exactly who he was, right? And I just put the blinders on and didn't want to see it. Of course, after 25 years, we ended up getting divorced because we had mismatched core beliefs and core values in areas that I wasn't willing to compromise on. And that is on me that I didn't see it because it was right in my face. And of course, after we got divorced, hindsight being 2020, I clearly saw all the signs, him telling me, him showing me that he had different values and beliefs than I did. So what are some ways I want to share today, not just say, oh, be careful, listen to people, pay attention to them. What are some ways to absolutely do this? What are some tips to read people or really hone in on and pay attention to what they're showing us, what they're telling us? I'll just share 9 tips. And then our action item today will be to pay attention to people as you go about your day, probably from now on. What are they showing you and telling you about themselves, not about you? People like to pretend they're telling us something about them, about us, when it's really they're telling us something about themselves. If people point out a behavior or a characteristic in other people all the time and it bothers them, it's because they're afraid that they have that characteristic in themselves. So if you are around people that are always judging and putting down and belittling and making fun of other people, guess what? They probably don't have great self-esteem and they're probably insecure, even though it doesn't seem that way in the way they act and the way they behave. I have an ongoing discussion with one of my sisters about this. She thinks that some people are entitled and they just think they're better than other people. And I contend, if you have to act like you're better than other people, it means you really don't believe that you're better than other people. Even if you're acting like you think you're superior, it's because you're insecure underneath. That's what I believe. But well, the jury's still out. We have an ongoing debate about it. So what are 9 ways that you can learn to read people? I'm going to sneak a drink of coffee because I'm very thirsty this morning, although it's very hot. Number 1, learn to identify positive and negative body language, right? I think that many of us, depending on how old you are or how experienced you are, have come across different types of body language. If somebody's all tight and closed off and their arms are crossed, it usually indicates that they're not open to whatever it is that's going on around them. I love watching people well, it's fun to watch people in church, but I'm not a regular churchgoer these days. or in any group setting or gathering, people at a party, people in church, people in class or in school, people at conventions or conferences or networking events, watch their body language. I guess networking events is a fun one for me. If you go to a networking event and somebody's standing in the corner all closed off, sipping a beverage, how likely are you to go up and talk to that person? Probably not very likely, because they don't look like they're open to having a conversation. You kind of even wonder why they're there. Number 2, pay attention to people's voice pitch. If people's pitch changes or goes up really, really high, it's probably because they're anxious or nervous about something. Is being anxious or nervous always a bad thing? No, of course not. We feel what we feel in order to indicate to us that something is going on. And again, same situation, a party, church, new to a group setting, new to a job, new to anything, and networking events, conferences, etc. You can tell if people are comfortable and just being themselves and enjoying the situation or not. We all have that ability. We all have the ability to read other people. Number 3, pay attention to people's breathing. People's breathing changes based on what they're thinking and what they're feeling. Number 4, look at the curvature of people's fingers. Now, this was a new one for me. I've never really paid attention to people's fingers, but apparently when your fingers are straight, and I just thought about that, my fingers are straight a lot in my videos. I'm always pointing and doing things and moving my hands. And I'm going to now pay attention to, are my fingers curved? Am I calm and confident and believe in what I'm talking about? Or are my fingers straight because I'm nervous and stressed out? And I guess this is a new one for me. I might have to study this one a little more. I fold my hands a lot. Why? Because otherwise my hands are moving 1,000 miles an hour because I have a lot of energy. Number 5, check how people are leaning. If people are interested in what you're saying, if they're interested in you, if they're enjoying the conversation, they tend to lean in. This is especially true in dating or getting to know people in a relationship standpoint scenario. If someone is into you, they'll usually lean into you. If they're not, they'll usually create more separation between the two of you or step back. If you've ever said something that offends somebody, watch how immediately they move away from you. Number 6, look at their grip. When they're shaking hands or when they're holding on to something, are they relaxed and hanging on to it in a casual way, or are they tightening their grip on it? You can see signs like that when you're having conversations with people. People will show and tell us everything we need to know about them if we're willing to open up our eyes. And I say open our eyes, our head, our heart, and our intuition. And I've talked about this several times before about anytime I've made a huge mistake in my life, it's because I negated and totally ignored one of those ways of looking at a situation, including my marriage and my relationship. My head said one thing, my heart said another, and my intuition screamed an absolute another thing, but I didn't listen to all 3, and so I made a mistake. And we do that. We're going to make mistakes, but the point is we want to learn from them. Number 7, pay attention to people's movements. Are their movements fluid and flowing, or are they jerky and nervous and fidgety? Some of us have a lot of energy and move and fidget a lot. It doesn't mean I'm uncomfortable in a situation. It means that I have arthritis and I need to keep everything in me moving, or I get stiff and sore, and I might be sitting and having a conversation or a meal with someone, and then I have to get up, and I don't want them to think I'm a rickety old woman, so I usually keep moving in some way, shape, or form all the time. Not because I'm nervous, but because I want to be able to keep moving. Number 8, observe the nuances of their smile. You can tell if someone is giving you a sincere smile, it hits their eyes, or if they're giving you the, oh, I'm barely putting up with you and tolerating what you're saying, and I really don't believe it and don't want to hear any more of it. I can't get away from you fast enough. Smile, right? Or you can tell if it's a nervous smile, and you can watch people's facial expressions as you're talking or having a conversation with them, and you can see, and you can feel, and you can hear whether they're a person that you want to have in your life or not. Number 9, remember to look at the big picture. Sometimes when we're in a conversation or we're observing someone, if we're in a conversation with them, it's hard to observe the big picture. Watch how that person maybe you get a weird feeling when they interacted with you, and then you watch them interact with other people and they seem just fine. So maybe it's just something between the chemistry of you and the other person that isn't right. I am not for everybody, and I'm absolutely positively delighted about that. But I want to be able to sort and separate the people that I do vibe with, or I do click with, and I want to be involved with them. I don't want to be involved with people that don't want to be involved with me. I don't want to be involved with people that make me feel uncomfortable. I don't want to be involved with people that judge and make me feel like I'm not good enough, etc. So that's me personally. You have to know who are your people and how do you interact with them. I mean, one of the best ways I like to do this and learn more about body language and about how to read people is, and we probably do the worst job of this, which is why I want to practice it, the people we love and care about the most, the people we spend the most time in, we tend to take for granted, just do our own thing. And we want to watch how what we do and say impacts them so that we know how what we're doing, what we're saying, how we're saying it, our tone of voice, our actions, our reaction time. When we're with other people, we can gauge if we're on the right track or not. And I think this is an area, communication to me is a huge area that we can always be improving in. And not just what we're putting out into the world, but what we're observing and taking back and how we're impacting other people is really key. So what's our action item again today? Pay attention to what people are showing and telling you today. And share in the comments below if you have an aha moment, or if you're like, oh my gosh, so-and-so has been telling me this all along, and I have just been totally negating it, filtering it out because I didn't want to see it. Because guess what? As humans, we do that a lot. And that can lead us down the wrong road for us, right? People get to be who they are right now, and our job is just to let them do that, just like we want people to let us be ourselves where we are right now. All right, have an awesome day. If I can help in any way, ask. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow.